Hello, it's Collector David, and this is one of my how-to videos, and I'm showing you basically how to de-rust these switches, and at the same time how to test them when you're done. So basically, I had a whole bunch of switches um, right there, and right there's a bunch of switches, and I put them in the attic, bit crawl space basically inside the house. I didn't think it would get that hot or humid, and it all got completely rust on them. And so a lot of times rust can be damaging, but sometimes it's almost like a mold rust, where it's just kind of powder rust. And in most cases, that's what the mold, excuse me, in most cases that's what the humid weather would do, is kind of like that spotting rust. And so that comes off really easily. This is a pre-war switch that I've cleaned up, and it was solid rust. Cleaned up all of them. The best way I found to clean them up was with these Scotch-Brite pads. I got these from Home Depot. It's really big ones, so it's like an 8x10 or something like that. So anyways, it comes in a pack of 5 for like $3 or $4. But anyways, you don't want to use steel wool, because a lot of people use steel wool because they use it for other things. But if you use steel wool, all that steel's gonna get caught between all those, and it's the magnet attraction of the lionel engine. It's going to pick them up and wind it around the motor. So you really don't want to use steel wool. So what I do is two methods. I usually either do a dry scratch with this, or I get it wet with something like this, and then I put that on it, and either one will work just fine. To be perfectly honest with you, a lot of times this powder rust I'm talking about is almost like just like a mold rust. Builds up on bare metal of train accessories very easily when it gets humid. And so the best way to get it off is not steel wool, but this. And so what you do is just get it and scrape it back and forth until it gets off. And I wore a mask just so the debris doesn't get in my face, my lungs or anything. And so that's how I cleaned it. And I cleaned the front, and I cleaned the plastics. And then at the end, I'm gonna test it. So this is how you can test the switches, or even if you don't need to clean it, this is how you can test it. So this will work with any transformer, but I have an RW transformer, and it's hooked up. I don't know if you can see it, but it's hooked up to 16 volts. Let me see if I can get a better view of this. Let's see. Okay, so let's see if we can get this going. Anyways, I have it hooked up to the top left to bottom, so it can be used for 16 volts. So about 15, 16 volts is what you want to do for these switches. So I have a positive lead in the middle going to middle rail that gets power, left or right, or the negative power. And then I got my negative strip right here. And it's real simple. You don't necessarily need one of the switches to test it. You can just do it like this. You point this right there, and your light bulb work, and that's just in the middle. And that's testing the electric part of it. If you bring it down, then it will go to the left, which is currently at. If you bend this and have it go this way, solid contact between those both, it just went straight. You do the same thing this way, and it goes to curve. And then you know if you got the switches working. So that's how you test them. So that's what that's going to look like. Light bulb on, 10, light bulb on straight, 10, straight. And all I'm doing is using the side of this thing. So it's like, just like that, and like that. And that's how you test and clean the lionel post-war switches. And another way to clean them that I already did a while back, which is why they're fine. Let me get a pot a minute. So this is on a newer lionel switch pattern, but basically it's a couple of screws to get this piece off, and then you can lube up anywhere that has moving parts. So you can lube up in this section right here, along with this section should be well greased and lubed. And then also on the inside there's a turn mechanism where the light bulb turns. That should be lubed as well. Those are your lubing points. And everything else, this is basically what I said, how to clean and how to prevent rusting. And another thing that you want to do if you're going to store them for a long time is put like an oil on top as of like let's see, I think it's called 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 motor oil. You just get a cloth and gently put oil on top. Another way that I usually do is arm oil. You just get arm oil spray it heavily, wipe it dry just a little bit, and that'll protect it as well. I found that arm oil actually helps prevent rusting on a lot of my training items. So anyways, that's my information video, how to take care and test and clean lionel postwar switches. I do have more training videos coming up, and I'll post one shortly. Have a good day, or good night.